Today, we're really going deep, not just scratching the surface. We're looking into a really influential work to pull out the key bits of knowledge for you.
Right, and the source we're diving into today is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, specifically through the YouTube audiobook version from Life-Changing Books Review.
Exactly. And our goal here is pretty straightforward. We want to save you time, but give you the core understanding. We're breaking down those fundamental, conflicting ideas about money and building wealth that Kiyosaki presents.
Think of it as a shortcut to some key financial literacy ideas, yeah, without needing to listen to the whole audiobook right this second.
So the absolute center of this whole thing is the idea of these two father figures, right?
Yeah.
They really shaped how Kiyosaki first understood money.
And it's key to remember, like you said at the start, it wasn't about one being rich and one being poor in terms of actual cash. It was their beliefs, their blueprints for money that were just worlds apart.
Okay, let's dig into some of those specific clashes in advice. It's almost paradoxical. One dad taught him, the love of money is the root of all evil. You hear that a lot.
A very common saying, yeah.
But the other dad, completely the opposite. The lack of money is the root of all evil. I mean, talk about starting from different places.
That difference right there just opens the door for so many other conflicting views, like taxes, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
One dad firmly believed, the rich should pay more taxes, help support things. A pretty standard view for many. The other argued that, well, taxes actually punish the producers, the people creating wealth and opportunities. It stifles things.
Wow. So it's not just about the advice itself, but the whole philosophy underneath it. One's about maybe protection and scarcity.
And the other about opportunity and growth. Yeah, it's fundamental.
And this wasn't just like abstract economics talk. It translated into real-life guidance.
Definitely. Study hard, get good grades so you can find a good, secure company to work for. That was one message.
The traditional path.
The traditional path. The other message, study hard so you can understand businesses, maybe find a good company to buy, or create your own. Very different end goals.
And how they talked about responsibility. That was different too, wasn't it?
Hugely different. The poor dad might say something like, the reason I'm not rich is because I have you kids. It kind of shifts the blame, maybe unintentionally. Whereas the rich dad perspective was, I must be rich because of you kids, framing the kids as the motivation, the reason to succeed.
That turns a potential burden into a driver. Interesting.
And even the atmosphere at home around money talk.
Right. One house, money talk at the dinner table. Forbidden. Impolite, maybe stressful.
Yeah, maybe seen as crass or something.
The other house.
Yeah.
Encouraged. Talking about money, business, finance, just part of everyday conversation.
It really shows how deep these money beliefs go, often soaked up from our environment without us even realizing it.
So true. What about risk?
Big difference there, too. One advised playing it safe, avoid risk at all costs, which is, a natural human tendency for many.
Sure. Protect what you have.
The other emphasized learning how to manage risk, understanding that calculated risks are often necessary for bigger rewards. It's not about being reckless, but smart about risk.
Okay, and here's one that always gets people talking. The house.
Ah, yes. The house as an asset debate.
One dad saw his home as his biggest investment, the cornerstone of security. That's the dream for a lot of people, right?
It's the conventional wisdom, absolutely. Buy a house, it's your biggest asset.
But the other dad viewed the primary residence as a liability, something that takes money out of your pocket every month.
And the real point there, I think, is it forces you to think about the definition. What truly makes something an asset? Does it generate income? Or does it cost you money? It's about that cash flow.
That really makes you question things. And finally, their view on who you rely on.
Yeah, one believed in the system, the company, the government. They'll take care of you, provide security.
Relying on external structures.
Exactly. The other stressed radical self-reliance. Individual responsibility for your own financial future is paramount. Don't wait for someone else to secure it for you.
So being surrounded by these totally opposite views, that must have had a huge impact on Kiyosaki growing up.
Oh, absolutely massive. He wasn't just fed one way of thinking. He was constantly forced to compare, to question, to think critically. Which path made more sense?
He had to choose his own way.
Precisely. And that constant comparison, that internal debate, that's where those aha moments come from, right? It builds that critical thinking muscle early on when it comes to money.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at the critique of traditional schooling in the source. The argument is pretty strong. Money lessons are mostly learned at home, not school.
Yeah, the source really hammers this point. Schools are great at teaching academic stuff, professional skills, how to be a good employee, basically.
How to get a job.
Exactly. But financial literacy, how money actually works, how to manage it, invest it, make it grow, that's largely missing from the curriculum. It creates a big gap.
And we see the results, don't we? The source gives examples of really smart people, doctors, lawyers, accountants,
Highly educated professionals.
who still struggle with their own personal finances. You'd think they'd have it figured out, but often they don't.
And it scales up too. The source points to things like national debt. You have highly educated people making huge financial decisions for countries, but they might lack that core financial training themselves.
That's a sobering thought. So what are the wider implications then for society?
Well, the source raises concerns, If millions lack financial basics, what happens down the line with things like retirement, healthcare costs, Social Security, Medicare? It puts a strain on the whole system.
It really makes you wonder how financially healthy a society can be if the individuals within it aren't financially literate.
Definitely helps explain why some people who look successful on the surface might still be feeling insecure financially. It's a common issue.
Okay, let's talk about mindset. This is a big one. The difference between saying, I can't afford it, and asking, how can I afford it?
Yes, this is presented as a really powerful mental switch. It sounds simple, just changing a phrase.
But the impact is huge.
According to the source, yes. Saying I can't afford it is like slamming the door shut in your brain. End of thought. Problem dismissed.
Right, you just accept the limitation.
But asking how can I afford it, that kickstarts the problem-solving part of your mind. It forces you to get creative, look for solutions, explore possibilities you wouldn't have considered otherwise.
It's about exercising your financial brain.
Exactly. And it's not about, buying everything you want irresponsibly. The rich dad wasn't saying that. It's about the mental exercise. He saw the phrase, I can't afford it, as a sign of, well, mental laziness in a way.
Yeah, and again, the contrast, the poor dad tended towards that mental shutdown. Can't afford it, full stop.
While the rich dad consistently pushed himself and Kiyosaki with how can we afford it? And that consistent mental workout led to very different financial muscles.
Like going to the gym versus watching TV, but for your finances.
That's the analogy used, yeah. Both dads worked hard physically, but one worked his financial mind much more actively.
Okay, let's get into those early practical lessons.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki is a kid trying to make money.
Right, age 9. He and his friend Mike weren't old enough for regular jobs, so they started looking for ways to make money themselves. That how can I mindset in action.
And the toothpaste tube scheme. That's quite a story.
Oh yeah, classic. Collecting old lead toothpaste tubes. Remember, they were made of lead back then.
Wow, yeah.
Melting them down in a coffee can on the stove.
Probably not the safest thing.
Definitely not. And then pouring the molten lead into plaster molds to make fake nickels.
Lead nickels.
Yeah.
Did they try to spend them?
Well, the story goes the molds weren't perfect, the lead nickels looked rough, and Kiyosaki's dad caught them.
Ah, bust.
But instead of just telling them off, he used it as a teaching moment. He explained the difference between what they were doing, which was technically counterfeiting, illegal, and being entrepreneurial. But he also made the distinction between working for someone, like the guys at the sugar plantation, and making money independently.
That conversation then led to the famous 10 cents an hour job, right?
Exactly. Mike's dad, the rich dad, offered them a job working in one of his stores on Saturdays, dusting cans, basically.
For 10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Which even then must have seemed ridiculously low.
Oh, yeah. Kiyosaki calculated it would take ages just to buy a comic book. He got really frustrated, felt exploited, wanted to quit after just a few weeks.
Understandable reaction for a kid.
Totally. But that was the whole point. The rich dad had designed this. It wasn't just a job. It was like his first course. He didn't lecture. He let life or this constructed situation do the teaching.
And the lesson was?
The core lesson. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. That low pay was meant to make them feel the frustration of working hard for very little direct monetary reward.
To make them angry enough to look for a different way?
Precisely. He apparently told Kiyosaki that getting angry, feeling that passion, combining anger at the situation with the love or desire for something better was crucial. That's what fuels real learning and change, not just passively accepting things.
So fear versus passion driving decisions. People take low-paying jobs often out of fear of having nothing.
Rather than being driven by a passion to build something or achieve a bigger vision, that anger about the 10 cents was a catalyst.
Okay, let's talk taxes again, but from a slightly different angle. The feeling of being taxed constantly.
Yeah, the source mentions that feeling of being taxed when you earn, when you spend, when you save, even when you die through inheritance taxes. It feels like you're always giving a cutaway.
And the rich approach this differently.
The argument is yes. They understand the system better and structure things, often legally through corporations, to manage their tax burden more effectively. But beyond just taxes, it ties back to that idea of power. If you're only working for money, your employer holds a lot of power over you. But if you have money working for you, through assets and investments, you gain more control, more power over your own time and choices.
Financial smarts equal less chance of being pushed around.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Understanding the rules of the game gives you more leverage.
Which leads nicely into the rat race, that cycle.
Ah, the rat race. Get up, go to work, pay bills, repeat. Maybe get a small raise, buy slightly nicer things, bills go up too, still stuck.
Fueled by fear and greed, as the source puts it. Fear of not having money, and the greed or desire for more things once you get a bit more money.
Exactly. And just throwing more money at someone in the rat race often doesn't solve it. They just expand their lifestyle to match the new income, and the cage just gets, well, maybe a little gilded, but it's still a cage.
But there's another way, right? That's the promise.
That's the goal the rich dad presented. Getting your money working hard enough for you so you don't need that paycheck just to survive. That's why he eventually stopped paying Kiyosaki and Mike altogether for their Saturday work.
To force them to think differently.
To force them to find ways to make money work for them, not just trade their time for dimes. And the first step out, according to the source, being really honest with yourself about those feelings, the fear, the desire, acknowledging them without letting them control you.
It's not just about the money itself, though. There's a danger in focusing only on getting rich, isn't there?
Huge danger. The source tells that cautionary tale about some of America's richest men back in 1923, titans of industry.
And what happened?
By 1929, after the crash, many had lost their fortunes, some died broke, committed suicide, or ended up in prison. It's a stark reminder that just having money isn't enough.
You need financial intelligence to keep it and grow it.
Exactly. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep and for how long, how many generations. That's the real measure.
Like lottery winners or athletes who make millions and then lose it all.
Perfect examples. They get the money, but maybe not the education or the mindset to manage it long term.
Which brings us back to that absolute fundamental. Assets versus liabilities.
The cornerstone concept, really. Simple but profound.
The rich acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities they think are assets.
And the definitions are key. An asset puts money in your pocket. Think rental income, stock dividends, business profits.
And a liability takes money out of your pocket, like a car payment, credit card debt, maybe even that primary residence mortgage if it's not generating income.
It sounds almost too simple, but the source insists this basic distinction is missed by so many people. They buy things that cost them money, thinking they're building wealth.
It gives you, the listener, a really clear filter to run your own finances through. Is this putting money in my pocket or taking it out?
It's immediately actionable.
And this leads to the idea of minding your own business, which doesn't mean being nosy.
No, not at all. It means focusing on your business, which is your asset column. Your profession is what you do, how you earn income initially. Your business is the collection of assets you build that generate income independently.
So financial struggles often come from people working their whole lives for someone else's business,
Their employer's business.
instead of building their own asset column alongside their job.
Right. The source uses that great McDonald's example. Ray Kroc wasn't primarily in the hamburger business, was he?
He always said he was in the real estate business. He owned the land under the franchises. The burgers were just the way the tenants paid the rent, essentially.
That illustrates it perfectly. Focus on acquiring the assets, not just the job. That's where true financial security comes from, building your business, your asset column.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. Okay, what about corporations? That sounds complicated.
It can seem that way, but the source presents it as a really important tool, especially for protecting those assets you're building. It's a legal structure the wealthy use effectively.
To protect assets and maybe manage taxes better.
Exactly. It goes back historically, apparently, to limiting risk for ship owners sending voyages out. If the ship sank, the investors only lost what they put into that specific corporate venture, not their personal wealth.
Ah, okay. Limited liability.
Right. And there's that key difference in how taxes often work. For many corporations, they earn revenue, spend money on legitimate business expenses, and then pay taxes on what's left.
Whereas employees usually earn, get taxed first, and then spend what's left.
It's a different sequence, and that difference can be significant over time. So the suggestion is, if you start building real assets, look into the benefits of using a corporate structure. It's about understanding the rules.
Okay, so pulling all this together, assets, liabilities, mindset, taxes, corporations, it forms what the source calls financial intelligence or financial IQ.
Yeah, and it's broken down into 4 broad areas of expertise.
What are they?
First, accounting. That's financial literacy, being able to read the numbers, understand financial statements.
The language of money.
Yeah, exactly. Second, investing. The science of making money. Strategies, vehicles, risk management within investing. Third, understanding markets, supply and demand, economic fundamentals, but also the psychology, the emotions that drive markets. Fear and greed again.
Right.
And fourth, the law. Understanding tax advantages, corporate structures, regulations, compliance, knowing the rules of the game.
And it's not enough to be good at just one.
The real power comes from the synergy, how these 4 things work together. That combination is financial intelligence.
Makes sense. But even with the knowledge, people face obstacles, right? What stops them?
The source points out 5 main reasons people don't achieve financial freedom, even if they know some of this stuff.
Okay, what are they?
Fear is number 1, fear of losing money. It's paralyzing for many.
We talk about that. Everyone feels it.
Right, even the rich. The key is how you handle it. The advice: start early, gives you time to recover, and adopt that Texan attitude, maybe willing to take calculated risks, seeing failure as learning.
Okay, fear. What else?
Cynicism. The critics who always find reasons why something won't work, they're often blinded by negativity. Winners tend to analyze, not just criticize. They ask how, not just why not.
Got it. Third.
Laziness. And again, not just couch potato laziness. It can be financial laziness. People who are busy working hard but are too tired or distracted to manage their money well, or they just default to, I can't afford it.
That mental laziness again.
Exactly. Fourth is bad habits. Spending everything you earn, not saving, not investing consistently. The source mentions paying yourself first as a key habit to break that cycle. Make saving and investing automatic a priority.
Makes sense. And the last one?
Arrogance, thinking you know it all. Arrogance, the source suggests, is often ignorance masked. If you think you know everything, you stop learning. And in finance, things are always changing. You have to stay teachable.
So fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance, lots to overcome. How do you even begin? Where do you find these opportunities?
Well, the first step is realizing that opportunities, the gold, are everywhere. But most people aren't trained to see them. It's like developing financial vision.
So train yourself.
Invest in yourself first. Take courses, read books, go to seminars, learn the fundamentals. That's the best investment.
And then be active.
Yes, don't just sit back. Make offers, look for deals, analyze properties or businesses. Understand what makes a true bargain, usually buying something undervalued where you can force appreciation through positive change.
Look where others aren't looking.
Sometimes, yeah. Foreclosure auctions, fixer-uppers, situations where people need to sell quickly. You need knowledge to navigate those, but that's where deals can be found.
And sometimes finding the buyer first. How does that work?
It's about understanding the market. In some cases, like wholesaling real estate, you might find someone who wants to buy a certain type of property. Then you go find that property for them and structure the deal. It's about connecting needs and solutions.
It all comes back to education and wisdom, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Continuous learning. Start early if you can. The source gives that example of turning, what was it, $5,000 into $1 million asset generating cash flow in under 6 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Possible because of the learning, the application of knowledge. What's in your head truly determines what ends up in your hands. Money starts as an idea, a plan.
And a big part of that plan is shifting from earned income
From your job.
to passive income and portfolio income.
That's the essence of investing right there. Taking
Right.
money earned from active work and putting it into assets that work for you passively, like real estate rentals, or through investments, portfolio income like stocks, bonds.
And investing isn't necessarily risky.
If you know what you're doing. If you're educated, you do your homework, you manage risk. Ignorance is what's truly risky.
So the ultimate goal here, the big picture, is financial freedom.
Exactly. Having choices, not being tied to a paycheck just to survive. And the source makes it clear. This kind of freedom, even great wealth, it's achievable. It comes down to financial literacy, applying these principles.
Well, wrapping this up, this deep dive into Kiyosaki's early lessons, shaped by those two dads, it really offers some powerful foundational ideas about money.
It really does. The contrast is so stark, it forces you to think.
And the key takeaways for you listening right now. Remember the power of your mindset. How can I afford it? Not, I can't.
And recognize the limits of just relying on traditional schooling for financial success. You have to seek out that financial education yourself.
Plus, that crucial simple definition. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take it out. Analyze everything through that lens.
And never stop learning. Overcome those obstacles like fear and cynicism. Keep building that financial intelligence.
So take a moment after this. Really think about those two dads' philosophies. Which one feels closer to how you operate right now?
Yeah, which beliefs are guiding your financial decisions? And definitely explore these ideas further if they resonate. Look up the book, find other resources, keep learning.
And here's that final thought to chew on. What are the core beliefs about money that you hold today? And honestly ask yourself, are they actually helping you get closer to where you want to be financially? Or are they maybe, just maybe, holding you back?